Yeah, the two captains from Everton and Ashwood City meet in the middle. Toss of the coin from the...
Buzzes to Jerry Harkness, and it's a goal. Jerry Harkness is the star of the show.
There's a new name on the League Cup trophy, and that name is Kent side Ashwood City Football Club.
Beyond bent. Janssen! It's their top goal scorer, Matt Janssen, who's got his 24th of the season.
The Europa League is coming to Kent.
A city of pride.
Lifting the ball into the box. Headed down by a Kubo to Kyle
Big oven feeling on
Salvation! Darkly Parky runs.
Ashwood City. Oh yeah.
The origins of the Offensive podcast basically come from the frustration of no one's making this, and I'd really like to see it. I had been working in broadcast media and in football in particular for a couple of years, and that had validated a kind of idea that had been simmering since I was maybe 15 or 16 years old. Just wanted a sweary, real football mockumentary. And there wasn't one because no one was making it. And I realised why, because, you know, people think that football fans are so partisan that you can't go and make a joke about Man United or Arsenal or Chelsea or whatever without facing complaints and consequences. And perhaps legal action from some of those football clubs. So yeah, the idea just sat there, and even when I first started getting the wheels in motion, I think I thought, I just still pictured myself suddenly stopping the project because I expected someone to make it. And that someone was Adam Jarrell and Joel Emery. Cheers!
Yeah, I was always intrigued and excited with Joel's idea for a football mockumentary. The boring producer hat had to come on at some point because Joel had banged on about it for so long that I knew that we had to at least attempt to make a version ourselves. And originally, with it being for screen, my boring producer hat allowed me to say, this is going to require a massive budget. Even to get a solid 20-minute, half-hour pilot out there would require a large budget. So I'm skipping ahead a bit here, but once Joel came up with the idea of The Offensive being an audio drama, I think it made perfect sense.
Originally, it was meant to be visual. We shot a demo, I think in 2015, I could be wrong, at an office where I did some work once upon a time. And I was the man behind the camera. I'm the main reason I don't particularly like the demo. Nothing on any of the actors. They were all fab. I just over-egged it a little bit on the camera. Wanted to make it maybe too dynamic, and ended up not really liking it. I think if you watch it on anything bigger than a 60-inch screen, has anyone got that? If you own a cinema and you put it on, it can make you feel a little bit seasick. But regardless, I sort of kept it as a, hopefully I'll meet some people. This is my idea, and here's the video demo. That was the thought. It was trying to get away from a concept that Adam and I, for a long, long time, have called Football Cup. Now, Football Cup, as an example, will be something like an advert where the advertising agency or the company making the advert will feel that they don't want to commit too much to any particular team. They don't want to infringe on any copyrights. They don't want to say anything that offends certain fans of any certain teams like that. So what they'll do is they'll use catch-all cliche terms like it's the Reds v the Blues in the Cup final. What cup? Who are the Reds? Who are the Blues? That kind of thing. And it used to wind me and Adam up so much to the point where we'd call each other and we'd point it out in various shows or adverts, for example. And we'd say, you should watch this. It's really Football Cup. The sort of like the scarves and fucking overhead kicks in slow motion and the net by the keeper does that. Do you know what I mean? Just think it's a hugely patronising thing for football fans. So we hated that, and often Adam and I will make a decision and say, is it 2 Football Cup? If it is, it doesn't go in, because there's enough of that crap.
I know things like his financial history, but not things like where to go for a pre-match pint. Come on, ye Reds.
Obviously, for the video demo, we needed to create an actual brand of Ashwood City. The name Ashwood City came from the fact that the team were going to be based in Kent. And you look around, there's obviously an Ashford, there's lots of forest and woodland in Kent. I couldn't find an Ashwood, so they won, and they got called Ashwood. In my mind, they are they're kind of near Dartford, I think, nearish the M25, but not, you know, in any sort of London terms. And so we had to kind of create a brand around them. From the get-go, I had realised in some earlier designs I'd made Ashwood blue, I think, or a shade of blue. And blue is just, it comes with all kinds of problems. Firstly, you just go Chelsea, Everton. Leicester had just had the season of all seasons, or were about to. And so white felt more disarming. I know Tottenham play in white, I watch football, and Fulham. But white was kind of blank. You could kind of, what's the word? You could live vicariously through Ashwood City. You could kind of project any team onto that white kit and be like, these guys behave like Newcastle do because of Mike Ashley, or these guys behave like Blackpool do because of the Oysters, that kind of thing. That's why I was stuck with white. I picked navy blue. Adam and I have argued for many years because he sees purple. A lot of people see purple. I see navy blue. A lot of men are colourblind, so we don't know who's right.
When I see the badge, I see blue. Like, I see blue there. But the away kit I always thought was a slight shade of purple.
I find that this is ridiculous. I find that if you put a colour picker on the colour that's on Ashwood's badge, it looks navy blue. But when that navy blue is against a white, it looks purple. Are you enjoying this video? It's very interesting, isn't it?
I see purple.
In terms of making the badge, it was an effort to get away from Football Cup, where I didn't want a mascot or anything like that. I find mascots can be very Football Cup, unless done right. So I wanted to keep it kind of bland, really. I think originally it was an aqueduct. I'm not quite sure why. I think I assumed that would take me a step away from the Football Cupness. Like, you'd never see a badge like that on a fake team in an advert or a kids' TV show or a comic book.
God, I can remember a version of Ashwood City before they were called Ashwood City. Joel had done a mock-up kit, and that definitely is purple, by the way. And I think they were called Primley FC as a placeholder before Joel had landed on a name.
I think it's got some Latin on it. The Latin probably means something rude. I can't remember what, but I'm sure if you look up those rude words, you'll find those Latin words. You'll find something.
This is years ago, and he'd put on the front of the shirt, he'd put the letters ASL. It was at the time when a lot of Premier League teams were being sponsored by banking companies, insurance companies that just had 3 letters in their name. Aon, is it Aon or AON? Manchester United. Tottenham had AIA, and I think it's because you weren't allowed to put Carlsberg or Holsten Pills on the front of your shirts anymore. So Joel had put ASL on there, which was crude and made me laugh, and sort of set the tone for what we could achieve with a fictional Premier League football team.
The aqueduct badge was in turn used for the video demo. We had the tracksuit top for Alan Meadows, I only changed the name to Rod because there were more puns that worked with Rod than Alan. Yeah, we made a tracksuit for him, put the A and the M on it. Had to buy them from a Sports Direct or something. Minimum charge £10, by the way, for printing names. So 10 quid for the fucking A and an M.
Hey, here he is, our hero, the mastermind behind a 0-0 at Watford. How do you do it?
What's going on?
We just want to congratulate you on that magnificent result, Alan. 0-0 at Vicarage Road.
Wowee.
Last on match of the day, yet again. 3 times this season now. New record for you, isn't it? Almost as good as Sam Allardyce.
It was a valuable point, Woody. What am I really here for?
That was the look of Ashwood City for a while in my mind, and it was only until we came to doing the podcast version, because Adam was working on a podcast at the time. He kitted himself out sound-wise. I had sent the script to quite a famous comedy writer who wasn't really that enthused about it at all, and had said, this was through a family member of his, so I think he was quite polite. He said there's no visual gags in it. Originally as a, come on, freshen it up, there's no visual gags. But then I realised that there's no visual gags. So it's going to be a podcast. I called Adam. Maybe I left him a voice note. And then he was very excited because in his heart, Adam has always wanted to be a director, and now is a director, and a very good one. So I think that was a calling for him, because it kind of melded. Is that a word? Meld? It melded two worlds that he was working in at the time. The reason why Kent was, I'm from Devon myself, and Adam's from Yorkshire. So you've got to ask yourself 2 questions. Why wasn't it in Devon, and why wasn't it in Yorkshire? The reason why it's not in Yorkshire is it would be too much about the neighbours in Leeds United and Huddersfield Town, and moving on into Lancashire with the Manchester clubs and Liverpool. And to me, it wasn't about the team feeling kind of like lost and forgotten in this wilderness of successful clubs. And the reason why it wasn't Devon, or the West Country for that matter, was, again, it was too much about the geography. I wanted an area that was, to me, felt kind of indistinct, but was also lacking a team. There's not that many people that, characterise Kent. I know there will be this in Kent, but in terms of the rest of the nation, I suppose Essex draws a lot of the impressions and stereotypes and stuff, whereas Kent always kind of felt it was so big, it has so many different pockets to it, that's where Ashwood would fit. And also Gillingham are the biggest team in Kent, which made Ashwood feel very, very real, in that they would be big. They'd be bloody big. They'd be 40, 50,000 seater, because the catchment area is so large. And in terms of successful teams, they're not really competing. The other key reason was it was always going to be American ownership, because we don't want Patrick to be too in charge, because there's not that much comedy there. And an American would look at Kent and just, if someone told him it was Greater London, he'd probably go for it. That's the other. I like the idea that ASG think that they kind of own a London club.
Joel's not huge on football kits.
I'm not huge on football kits. When people are like, have you seen the new fucking Mansfield Town? I don't care. Whatever. I don't care. I don't care about fashion that much anyway. And when people are like, oh, Nigeria, Juventus, great. It's not for me. Sorry. It's just not for me. So, but it is for Adam. So he was saying, we need a kit that looks good, because people want to wear stuff that looks good. They don't just want to wear a plain white football kit of a fictional team. And the away kit is attractive, apparently. I don't know, because I'm blind to all this. But he wanted something really trendy and cool. It's been a huge success, so Adam was completely right there and I was wrong, or my indifference wasn't very well placed. And yeah, there's almost hardly any left. So well done, Adam. You're right for once.
The away kit, just like the home kit, was very smart, very popular, and I think if we would have gone too wacky, it would have sort of given up the joke, really, of Ashwood being a fictional Premier League team, but a believable fictional Premier League team. I think if you look at the home and away kit and the third kit, they could genuinely be kits in the Premier League if you didn't know any better. So for the launch of Series 3, we decided to introduce a third kit to make lots of money. No, not really, we don't make lots of money. But we decided to release a third kit for something different. We didn't want to change the design of the home kit or the away kit for people who had purchased before. We don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair anyway when football teams do that. I think it's mad how much they charge for football kits, but I understand that's just the world we live in. But we wanted to introduce a third kit that was a bit more out there, I think, with regards to colour scheme, but we wanted it to look smart. I think I'd outgrown my love of David Seaman's Euro 96 goalkeeper shirt and my favourite ever Huddersfield Town away shirt. But we wanted something that was slightly louder than usual, but different. Joel wanted a black shirt, and I think originally we went with black and gold. It's quite an underrated Sam Sparrow song. And I sort of thought, I think we could do a bit more with it, with regards to sort of pushing the envelope like it's revolutionary, but you know what I mean. I went for a few of my personal favourite colours, like hot pink. There was a hot pink version, and the teal of the Charlotte Hornets I'd always really enjoyed. The teal turquoise, it's more leaning towards blue. God, I hope you're not too bored. But I always really liked the teal of the Charlotte Hornets NBA team, and we also went for a mint version as well. So they were quite similar, but what we did was send the very crude early designs, so going back to when we were going to go with gold or maroon, sent the very, very crude designs to Jack at Request a Kit. I'll put his Twitter down on here so that you can check him out. He does some amazing work. He's very, very, very talented. If you ever need any kits made for any Football Manager saves, or for anything else, if you run a five-a-side team, or if you're part of a football club that you need any kits, I definitely want to give him a shout out. If there's anyone ever needing any kit designs, or if you just want to have a bit of fun and think, oh, what would it be like if Macclesfield Town were sponsored by so-and-so? I don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah, check him out. He did an amazing job for us. My crude designs on the equivalent of Microsoft Paint, just very quickly throwing a few designs between myself and Joel. And he returned with some brilliant mock-ups of what I'd asked for. The gold kit looked really smart, really liked that. But as I said, we did want to push the boat out a little bit. So on viewing the three finalists, I personally really liked hot pink, but I knew that it could be a Marmite shirt. I knew some people could love it, some people could hate it. The blue shirt was really smart, but I think Man City have a similar design. So Joel opted for mint, and I said, yeah, let's go for the mint. And then we sent the design off to the manufacturers, and now we have the wonderful third kit, which I love. It's really popular.
The Ashwood City song was originally episode 28. No, 29. Could be 28. I think it's 29. I said to Adam, I've cut a bit where Patrick is in the Ashwood City Superstore, and it'd be nice if we had some music on in the background. And at the time, Adam was working at a place where he was a singer at a place where he would finish work at like 5 a.m. So as I'm going to bed at midnight or something, probably 10 o'clock, I said, yeah, if you want to do like a little jingle that's on in the background of the shop, I said Gotham City would be a good idea because that's really straightforward because it's similar to Ashwood City. And Adam said, I always sing Ashwood City to the lyrics, to the tune of Gotham City. So obviously he had been thinking of that for a while. And then, yes, because he finished at 5 a.m, he wrote the whole thing at work, recorded it when he got back or had got up early that next morning. So then about 10 or 11 in the morning the next day, he gave me this entire song, which is amazing. And very funny. So then we shoved it on the end of the episode. And yeah, it was a huge hit. And we haven't looked back. We're looking back now, aren't we, technically?
We're approaching the end of Volume 1 of the History of Ashwood City. I hope you guys have enjoyed yourselves watching Joel and I talk about colours of shirts. But the next few editions of the History of Ashwood City are going to be in-depth character profiles. So we're going to be hearing from myself, from Helena and from Paul, and other characters as well. And we'll also have talking heads of both Joel and myself with regards to those characters. And just sort of shine a light on, what it's like to play these characters. I know whenever we do any sort of Q&As, you guys always have a lot of questions for Paul and Helena and myself playing Woody. So the next few History of Ashwood City videos will feature in-depth character profiles, and you'll be the first to know, as always. So I just wanted to just hand over to Joel to just give a little brief chat on the three main principal characters and how they sort of came about, seeing as we are doing the origins of Ashwood City.
For the principal characters, Patrick, Woody and Jess were on the table for a very, very, very long time. I dare say the very beginning. So I always wanted a head of communications and somebody that wasn't, wasn't like beguiled or mesmerised by the football world. Mostly somebody that was kind of just pissed off by it. My wife works in PR and had always, come back telling me stories of PR disasters and fuck-ups and things like that. So that I always kind of enjoyed. I also imagine that in the olden days when the idea was first bubbling, Jess, I pictured working at some kind of like app, or maybe working in the city or something like that. So for her to take the step in football, I think she did it not because of any sort of like financial reward. I think someone probably once told her that it was impossible or that she couldn't do it, or you don't want to do that. So then she thought, fuck you, I'm going to do it. That's her motivation. And then Woody was somebody where I always wanted a nickname. Football is, for people that work in football will know this, is full of nicknames. It constantly, throughout every single level of it. So it would be weird if we didn't. Woody was planted in there. Originally, quite clearly started as a kind of idea of a Malcolm Tucker, somebody that was very intimidating, but then kind of moved into almost like a childish, almost psychopath, but not in the sense of like, he's murdering people. He just finds it quite easy to detach himself from reality. So yeah, he was always on the table, and he was on the table as the enforcer because he was playing opposite to Patrick. The reason why, actually I should say, the reason why Woody's got a Scottish accent, a lot of people obviously think it's because of the thick of it of Malcolm Tucker. We needed Adam's normal voice for all the sort of miscellaneous stuff in the show, radio and TV show hosts and stuff like that. So it was about what other accents was Adam comfortable doing, and kind of in terms of, where he wanted to pick, he's obviously very comfortable doing an Australian accent. He's comfortable doing a North American accent. But the fact of the matter is that those people from those countries don't have big jobs at Premier League football clubs. So they were kind of ruled out. And then the other regionalised areas didn't really work. As a Londoner, Woody came across as quite cruel for some reason. In Adam's sort of native twang, being from the northwest, he kind of it didn't really fit. It didn't have the same sort of fizzy energy and sparkling nature of Woody, whereas we kind of talked about Falkirk in between Edinburgh and Glasgow, to go with something that was soft but quite quick. And then that's literally why he's got a Scottish accent. And then I suppose people drew the parallels afterwards, which is fine, lovely parallel to draw. And then Patrick, I always, obviously, huge credit to Paul Waggett. Patrick started off, and you'll see this in episode 1, very standoffish, very stoic. He was a bit of a brick wall, really, just sort of infuriated by the chaos that's going on around him. But I think in around episode 5 or 6, Paul once gave us a line that was a bit like, oh, what? And it made us laugh so much. And actually the character of Patrick being this kind of whiny, privileged, sort of defeated person was actually much funnier and probably more likely. I don't think you can just remain this emotionless brick wall working in elite level football. I think that's too hard. So yeah, lots of credit to Paul Waggett there for moulding. Adam doesn't get any credit for moulding Woody because he chats to me whilst the script is being written about what Woody would do and say. So he's moulded Woody before the words have been written. Don't know where I'm going with this. And then obviously Helena brought a kind of a layer of anger under the surface of almost anything she says, which is my favourite thing, which is why I'll often say that Jess is my favourite. I think if I get people's lines and I'm listening to recordings, or if Adam sends me an edit over, I find it very hard to not laugh at Jess or not just smile as she's talking. I don't have feelings for Helena or anything. I just like her character.
Okay, we're going to wrap up there. I hope you've enjoyed episode 1. Volume 1? What did I go for? I think I went for volume. It's a bit posh, isn't it? I hope you enjoyed the first episode / volume of the history of Ashwood City. Of course, Christmas is nearly upon us, so I've got to plug the club shop. Please, 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 please get your orders in nice and early if you want to buy something. We've got Ashwood City Christmas cards, we've got loads of little stocking fillers like the pop sockets and the key rings, and of course, home, away and third kits. Sorry for the plug, but I've got to do it, and hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Keep across the Patreon and the Discord servers. There's going to be a lot more going on over the festive season, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.
Everybody singing with me, yeah. Woo. Everybody, oh yeah. Woo. I'm talking about the days of Jerry Hardness, y'all. Push on, super whites. Bring the cup back to Dudley Park, y'all. Sounds good, don't it? I love these kids, y'all. See, everybody's singing with me.